First contact and trial by fire. The Zentari Collective had explored 17 galactic sectors over their 50,000 years of spacefaring history. Their crystalline vessels, powered by quantum-fold technology, had encountered hundreds of sentient species. Some joined their collective, others were cataloged and left to develop, and a few, those deemed too aggressive or unpredictable, were carefully contained within their home systems. High Observer Talon stood on the command deck of the Infinite Perspective, his translucent exoskeleton refracting the ambient light as he studied the holographic projection of a small blue-green planet. "Another water world," he remarked, his voice a melodic series of clicks and hums translated by the ship's systems. "Oxygen atmosphere, carbon-based life." Preliminary scans showed technological development consistent with pre-space civilizations. Science Director Vesa moved forward, her more delicate frame glowing with bioluminescent patterns indicating curiosity. "Yes, High Observer, but there's something unusual about this particular world. The electromagnetic emissions suggest a species advancing at an unprecedented rate." Unprecedented. Talon's outer membranes rippled with skepticism. By what measure? These beings, they call themselves humans, have progressed from simple stone tools to rudimentary space exploration in less than 10,000 years. Vesa's patterns shifted to express emphasis. Most comparable species require at least twice that time. Talon considered this. The Zentari themselves had evolved over millions of years, their civilization developing methodically and deliberately. Rapid advancement often indicated instability or destructive tendencies. "What do we know of their nature?" he asked. "They're paradoxical," Vesa admitted. "They wage wars over resources they could share, yet risk their lives to save strangers. They develop medicines to extend their lifespans while creating weapons that could eradicate their entire species. They're driven by emotion, yet capable of remarkable logic. A volatile combination," Talon observed. "Do they warrant further study?" "I believe they do." Vesa's luminescence brightened with enthusiasm. "With your permission, I'd like to establish a long-term observation post. Something about their adaptive capabilities suggests potential." Talon gave the equivalent of a Zentari nod. "Granted, but maintain strict non-interference protocols. We'll observe and assess whether they're suitable for eventual contact or containment." For 3 Earth years, the Zentari observation team monitored humanity from their cloaked station orbiting the Moon. What began as routine data collection evolved into fascination. The humans displayed an adaptability that defied conventional evolutionary patterns. They thrived in environments ranging from scorching deserts to frozen tundra, from mountain peaks to ocean depths. Their social structures were chaotic but surprisingly resilient, constantly breaking down and rebuilding in more complex forms. During the regular reporting cycle, Science Director Vesa's excitement had become impossible to conceal. "High Observer, the humans have surpassed our predictive models again," she reported. "Their computational technology doubled in capacity while we compiled our last assessment. They've begun serious development of quantum computing 50 years before our models suggested it was possible." Talon's skepticism had gradually given way to guarded interest. Could our presence be affecting their development? Even with our shields? Trace emissions might. "We've ruled that out," Vesa interrupted, an unusual breach of protocol that highlighted her enthusiasm. "Their advancement appears entirely self-generated. It's as if they're driven by some collective impulse to exceed limitations. Or perhaps they sense threats they cannot yet identify," Talon suggested. "Evolution often accelerates in response to environmental pressure." "That's the most remarkable aspect," Vesa countered. "Unlike most species that evolve to fit specific ecological niches, humans adapt their environment to suit themselves. They don't wait for evolution, they engineer solutions." As the observation continued, the Zentari began specific experiments. With careful manipulation of Earth's ionosphere, they created localized climate anomalies. When unprecedented storms devastated coastal regions, humans responded not with tribal conflict as predicted, but with global relief efforts. When subtly introduced agricultural blights threatened food supplies, they rapidly developed resistant strains and alternative cultivation methods. They're remarkably cooperative in crisis, Vesa noted during the fourth year of observation. Yet they maintain their competitive instincts. It's an unusual combination. Talon, now fully engaged in the study, responded thoughtfully. Perhaps the competition drives their innovation, while cooperation ensures their survival. An interesting balance. The Centauri's planned observation schedule was dramatically accelerated when their sensors detected a natural phenomenon that had escaped human notice, a massive solar flare building on the far side of their star, one that would unleash electromagnetic devastation, unlike anything in their recorded history. This presents an unprecedented opportunity, Talon stated during an emergency council meeting, a natural test of their resilience at planetary scale. High Observer, Vesa objected, her bioluminescence pulsing with concern. This event could devastate their infrastructure and communications. Millions could die. Yet if they survive and rebuild, we'll have valuable data on their true capabilities, Talon countered. The collective protocols are clear. We observe natural events without interference. As the solar storm approached, debate raged among the Centauri. Some argued for warning the humans, others for offering protection, but ultimately the non-interference directive prevailed. They would watch and learn. The flare struck Earth with catastrophic force. Power grids failed across entire continents. Satellites malfunctioned or were permanently disabled. Communications networks collapsed. The technological foundation of human civilization seemed to crumble in hours. The Centauri observation team recorded everything, expecting societal breakdown, mass panic, and regression to primitive survival behaviors. Instead, they'd witnessed something extraordinary. Within days, communities had established local power systems using technology that seemed cobbled together from salvaged components. Emergency communication networks sprang up using outdated radio equipment. In areas where technology couldn't be quickly restored, humans adapted with remarkable speed, using ancient techniques alongside innovative workarounds. They're not just surviving, Vesa reported, her patterns expressing astonishment. They're improvising solutions we wouldn't have conceived. Talon studied the holographic displays showing humans working together across previously hostile political boundaries. They're using the crisis to accelerate their development rather than regressing. As weeks passed, the Centauri watched humans rebuild their infrastructure with improvements rather than mere restoration. They incorporated redundancies and protective measures against future solar events. Global cooperation expanded beyond the immediate crisis to address long-standing challenges. It's as if they needed catastrophe to achieve their potential, Vesa observed. They're emerging stronger than before. Not merely stronger, Talon corrected, his usual detachment giving way to something close to admiration. More unified, more purposeful, and most remarkably, they've begun monitoring solar activity with new detection systems that might identify our presence. Indeed, 6 months after the solar event, a team of human scientists had established an array of advanced sensors specifically designed to provide early warning of similar phenomena. These sensors had begun detecting anomalies consistent with the Centauri cloaking field. They're looking outward sooner than expected, Vesa noted with concern. Our models suggested they would focus on rebuilding for at least 3 years before resuming significant space observation. Talon's response carried unexpected gravity. Perhaps we've underestimated them all along. Prepare for potential first contact scenarios. I believe these humans may be ready for introduction to the wider galaxy, not as subjects or study specimens, but as something we've rarely encountered. What would that be? Vesa asked. Equals, Talon replied, the concept sending ripples of shock through the Centauri command staff. Or perhaps something even more significant. Teachers. As the humans' recovery continued, a small research facility in Antarctica detected an energy signature like nothing ever recorded. The signal appeared to emanate from lunar orbit, occasionally shifting position in ways that defied conventional physics. A handful of scientists began to piece together a theory so audacious that they initially hesitated to share it. They were being watched. The Revelation and Alliance. Dr. Eleanor Chen stared at the data scrolling across her monitor in the Antarctic Research Station Omega. 6 months after the devastating solar flare that had nearly plunged humanity back into the Dark Ages, she and her small team had been tasked with monitoring space weather to prevent similar disasters. What they'd found instead was something far more extraordinary. "It's still there," she murmured, pointing to an energy signature that appeared as a subtle distortion against the lunar surface, moving in non-random patterns, occasionally emitting bursts of particles that don't match any known cosmic phenomenon. Her colleague, Dr. Asant Okafor, nodded grimly. "And it's been there since before the flare. Our pre-event archives show the same signature, though we weren't looking for it then." "Whatever it is," Eleanor said, "it's observing us. The question is, has it been watching passively, or did it cause the flare?" The implications hung in the air between them. Humanity had always debated the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence. Now they weren't just facing evidence of its existence, but the possibility that first contact had already occurred, and might not be benevolent. 24 hours later, representatives from major world powers convened in an emergency virtual summit. Despite lingering political tensions from the pre-flare era, the shared experience of global catastrophe and recovery had fostered unprecedented cooperation. "We need to establish contact," argued General Lai Wei of the Pan-Asian Alliance. "If they possess technology that can affect our sun, they could eliminate us at will." "Or perhaps they were studying our response," countered Dr. Imani Okoro, representing the African Union. "The flare might have been a test, one I believe we passed by demonstrating resilience and cooperation rather than descending into conflict." After heated debate, a consensus emerged. Humanity would acknowledge the watchers and extend an invitation for formal contact. Using the most powerful transmission array salvaged from the disaster, they directed a simple mathematical sequence toward the anomaly, followed by images representing Earth's diverse biosphere and human civilization. Aboard the Infinite Perspective, the Centauri Council faced their own crisis of protocol. "They've detected us," Vesa announced, her bioluminescence flickering with excitement and apprehension. "And they're initiating contact." High Observer Talon's exoskeleton rippled with concern. "This violates all established contact procedures. Developing species aren't supposed to initiate the process." "Perhaps that's the final proof of their readiness," Vesa suggested. "They've not only survived our tests, both intentional and accidental, but have advanced rapidly enough to pierce our concealment. Or perhaps," offered Fleet Commander Narrows, "they represent exactly the kind of unpredictable development that warrants containment. Species that advance too quickly often destroy themselves, or others." Talon absorbed these perspectives, his crystalline neural network processing the implications. "The collective has based its expansion on predictability and control. These humans are neither predictable nor easily controlled, yet their adaptive capabilities may offer solutions to challenges we fail to overcome." After careful deliberation, Talon reached a decision that would alter the course of galactic history. "We will respond, not as observers or superiors, but as equals seeking understanding." The Centauri deactivated their cloaking field, allowing their ship to be visible from Earth for the first time. The crystalline structure, nearly 2 kilometers in length, shimmered in the reflected sunlight like a faceted diamond suspended against the lunar surface. On Earth, observatories around the world captured images of the vessel, triggering both awe and fear. Military forces went on high alert, but the International Council urged restraint. The appearance of the ship without immediate hostile action suggested peaceful intent. 3 days later, the Centauri transmitted their response, a complex mathematical proof followed by imagery of their own civilization and simplified representations of their evolutionary history. They included coordinates for a meeting location in neutral territory, the lunar surface, equidistant between the Centauri vessel and the human outpost established there before the solar flare. Eleanor Chen found herself selected for the first contact team. 5 individuals chosen to represent Earth's diverse cultures, disciplines, and perspectives. As their shuttle approached the designated coordinates, tension and wonder filled the small craft. "Remember," said Ambassador Diala Santos, the team's diplomatic lead, "we'd represent all of humanity in this moment. Whatever their intentions, we must demonstrate both our adaptability and our principles." The lunar landing site had been prepared by automated drones sent ahead to establish basic infrastructure. As the human team exited their craft in specialized environmental suits, they observed the approaching Centauri delegation. 3 tall, crystalline beings whose translucent exoskeletons glowed with internal light. When the 2 groups stood facing each other across 20 meters of lunar dust, a moment of profound silence stretched between species that had evolved on worlds 400 light-years apart. The Centauri initiated communication through a device that projected a 3-dimensional holographic interface between the groups. Complex symbols appeared, rapidly shifting into approximations of human language as their systems processed linguistic patterns. "We are the Centauri Collective." The translation read, "We have observed your species' response to crisis and find your adaptability unexpected." Ambassador Santos stepped forward. "We are representatives of Earth. We detected your presence and wish to understand your intentions." What followed was an exchange that began in cautious formality, but gradually revealed the profound differences and surprising similarities between the 2 civilizations. The Centauri admitted to observing humanity for years and acknowledged that while they hadn't caused the solar flare, they had chosen not to warn Earth of its approach. Rather than reacting with anger, Dr. Chen asked a question that caught the Centauri unprepared. "What did you learn from watching us rebuild?" The lead Centauri, identifying itself as High Observer Talon, responded after a noticeable pause. "We learned that predictability is not always advantageous. Your chaotic approach to problem-solving achieves results our more orderly methods cannot. Your species turns crisis into opportunity in ways we find illuminating." As the dialogue continued, the humans discovered that the Centauri, despite their advanced technology, faced challenges their methodical approach couldn't resolve, including a quantum physics problem that limited their faster-than-light travel capabilities. "We've been working on similar theoretical questions," Dr. Okafor offered, sharing recent human research that approached the problem from an entirely different framework. The Centauri scientists appeared initially dismissive of the primitive mathematical models, until they recognized how the human approach bypassed assumptions their own civilization had never questioned. "Your perspective is valuable," Talon acknowledged, the translator struggling to convey the complex emotion behind the statement. "Perhaps there is potential for an exchange of knowledge." Over subsequent meetings, the relationship between humans and Centauri evolved from wary observation to collaborative engagement. The Centauri provided insights into sustainable energy systems that accelerated Earth's recovery, while humans offered novel approaches to problems that had stymied Centauri development for millennia. 6 months after first contact, a formal alliance was proposed, not based on charitable uplift of a primitive species, but on genuine mutual benefit. The Centauri Council, initially skeptical, was persuaded by unprecedented advances achieved through human collaboration. "They don't think as we do," Vesa explained to the collective leadership. "Where we see patterns and follow them to logical conclusions, humans imagine what could be rather than what is. They make intuitive leaps across gaps in knowledge that we methodically bridge. Together, we move forward more effectively than either could alone." On Earth, the alliance sparked a renaissance of scientific and cultural development. Access to the Centauri's historical records revealed that humanity's rapid advancement wasn't merely unusual, it was unique among thousands of cataloged species. Humans adapted not just through biological evolution, but through cultural and technological innovation that operated on timescales orders of magnitude faster than natural selection. As Earth prepared to send its first delegation to the Centauri homeworld, Eleanor Chen reflected on the improbable journey from near extinction to galactic partnership. "We thought the solar flare was an ending," she told her colleagues during the farewell ceremony. "Instead, it was the beginning of humanity's greatest chapter. Not because we were stronger or smarter than anyone believed, but because we refused to accept impossibility." High Observer Talon, now serving as ambassador to Earth, added his perspective. "The Zentari Collective achieved greatness through order and careful advancement. Humanity has shown us a different path, embracing chaos, turning vulnerability into strength, and finding opportunity in disaster. Together, we represent not just an alliance of species, but a union of complementary philosophies." As the first joint Zentari human expedition prepared to explore uncharted regions of the galaxy, both civilizations recognized a profound truth. The universe wasn't divided between the strong and the weak, the advanced and the primitive. The true distinction lay between those who accepted limitations and those who overcame them, those who saw obstacles as endpoints and those who viewed them as merely the next challenge to surmount. In humanity, the galaxy had found not just another intelligent species, but a catalyst for transformation, beings who looked at the impossible and simply hadn't learned to stop trying.